All right, welcome back. We continue, and the Steelers got a little bit of a surprise. Tyson Alualu is back. Had a change of heart. Couldn't make a visit with Jacksonville because of a COVID situation. Stayed at home and realized I have it pretty good here. So, Chris, let's talk about that and what it means to their defensive line. And, you know, given all the other departures on defense, they still have issues there. But how big is this for you?
I think it's big because it helps refortify some of the losses they had in their run defense. You know, whether it be Vince Williams, who was strong and stout against the run on the inside of the linebacking core, whether it's the fact that you're not sure if the guys behind Alualu at nose tackle, Buggs and Davis, were ready to step up and take on that role, whether it's because you're not sure if your slot corner, regardless of who it is going to be able to come up and play the run the way Mike Hilton did in the past. I think it's a huge help. It helps Cam Hayward. It helps Stephon Tuitt. It helps T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith. The fact that they were somehow able to hold on to him is a big positive for me.
I thought it was a lock that he would. Go ahead, Josh.
Excuse me, Jeff. He was a microcosm of the Steelers last season, was he not? In the first half of the season, he was great. In the second half, he was not. I really believe he was playing at far less than 100%. He's an Iron Man. He doesn't like to miss any time. He finally did with the knee injury. He was never close to the same player when he came back. Let's hope we get the September and October version of him. He's a really good football player, clearly a respected guy in that locker room. And for all the talk about, you know, these defensive starters that the Steelers are without now, well, they got one of them back, and I don't know how much time he'll see this season. He's not an every down player, but obviously he's only going to help them. It's a pretty thin position for them.
Yeah, he's a key player for them. It's a sneaky good free agent signing, as Chris mentioned. You know, the guy can play multiple positions. He knows his role, and he knows these guys, and he gets along with them. He knows how to blend into this defense. He knows what he needs to do for this defense. He's not a guy that's looking to be a starter somewhere. He's very comfortable with what they're asking him to do, and he's still effective. Now, if Mike Hilton and Bud Dupree want to change their mind and come back too, that would really help as well.
All right, let's talk about something that won't help, I don't think, player safety, because they talk about it all the time. But the NFL will go, it looks like, to 17 games this year. In fact, they used an interconference matchup based on divisional standings from a couple of years ago to determine who plays whom. And for the Steelers, that means their 17th game will be Seattle coming to Pittsburgh. Some teams get 9 home games, others get 8. Josh, they also have no extra bye week. They push back the Super Bowl. They're going to have wild card games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I like the system the way it was with 16. I think this is stupid. Do you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, listen, I love NFL football as much as anyone, so we get an extra week of it. That's great. But it strikes me as incredibly greedy by the NFL. We shouldn't be surprised. This is just another reminder that the Players Association in football has a remarkably small amount of power. We see it all the time. Here it is again. We hear so much about player safety. They cannot be happy about this, nor should they be. I think 16 games is perfect. Now some teams get 9 home games, some get 8, which I think is a little bit of a competitive disadvantage. It just, I get it. It makes them more money, but it strikes me as unnecessary. And it just seems like every single season, more and more NFL players are hurt every single week. This can't be a good thing.
Well, they're trying to keep these players from getting hurt in the preseason. So what's the natural thing? We don't want you to get hurt in the preseason, so I add an extra regular season game so you won't get hurt. Yeah, it's obviously all about money. It's never has been about player safety. The only time it is to keep the lawyers happy. It's about making money. That's why the league is expanding. And you'll see what they'll do is they'll end up going 8-8, and they'll have all these international sites where all these teams will have to play these games coming up to kind of even out the 17th game. It's just about getting cash in the owner's pocket, and once again, players are just along for the ride.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. The NFL is going to saturate us with football until we finally throw our hands up and say no mas, which may not be, who knows how many. They play 20 games and have 4 rounds of playoffs and 12 teams in each conference. I really don't know if there's a limit to it. But what's more interesting to me, and Bob, you brought up the idea of the NFLPA, is the other thing that's being fought over right now, and the 17 games we kind of had an idea was going to get instituted. It's been alluded to for a while. Art Rooney II alluded to it last week in his conference call with fans. The more interesting thing is the entire offseason being virtual, which veteran players are fighting for now. But those guys, say 40 through 53 on the roster, They don't want. They want to get to practices, in facilities. They want to fight for jobs. They want to prove they're worthy of jobs. And those are the cheaper guys. Those are the guys fighting for their careers seemingly every single week. That may be the more interesting battle going forward here, because the 17 games, the owners were going to institute that. That was written into the new CBA a year and a half ago. These guys fighting over virtual or in-person off seasons, that may be a much harder fight over the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's funny how it goes, though, because at one point they wanted 18 games. No, because of safety, they didn't do it. Now they're doing 17. The whole thing goes against safety, and that's what I thought would be the number one issue, but that's clearly just a perception more than anything else. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about that big NFL blockbuster trade with Miami, San Francisco. We'll get into that. But first, we're going to talk about the Pirates who open up this week. You may not have many expectations. I'll ask this panel what they think of the Pirates and what would qualify as a good year for them. That's next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.